What's happening, y'all, and welcome into HouseofSparky.com's football show. I'm Blaine McCormick. He's Troy Lynch. We don't have the fedoras this week like we did for our Halloween special, but it's still going to be a cool show. Lots of good stuff ahead.
Yeah, and a lot of highlights too, Blaine. Unfortunately for Arizona State fans, and not a lot of highlights for them, but USC had a lot of touchdowns, so let's watch them, shall we? USC making the trip down to Tempe to take on the Arizona State Sun Devils. They won their last two games, feeling the momentum. However, first drive of the game, Sam Darnold, this guy's pretty good. A 33-yard dime to Deontay Burnett. Good gracious, that would look good. 7-0 USC Trojans, and gets tackled by a teammate. That's how excited the Trojans were in this game. Still in the first quarter after an ASU field goal, Darnold finds Tyler Vaughns on a simple 5 yards and out, breaks a tackle, and Vaughn, you're clear for takeoff. Flies into the end zone. That puts up 6 more points. Darnold, 2 TD passes in the first quarter, and that means it's selfie time. 14-3 Trojans at the end of the first. Ball on the Trojan 33-yard line in the second quarter. Not anymore. Ronald Jones. This guy was running like a man on fire. Nobody can catch him. 67 yards for a touchdown. 21-3 USC. But time is winding down, and Manny Wilkins in this ASU offense, they need something, so they're going to go for the Hail Mary as time is expiring. Chucks it up, saying a prayer, bounces up, and who finds it but Kyle Williams? Not really sure what happened. Let's take another look. There's the ball. Falling down, N'Keal Harry, surrounded by 3 USC Trojans. Ball bounces back up in the air. They don't know where it is, but Kyle Williams has eyesight like a hawk. He finds it. He's going to make a leap, barely staying into the end zone on the goal line. And that's a touchdown, ladies and gentlemen. Initially called not a touchdown. They went back into the locker room, and then the refs reviewed it. They said it's a touchdown. 31-10. USC still in the lead at halftime. Those fans are loving it. And starting the second half off right. It's a bird, it's a plane. No, it's Super Manny. 1-yard touchdown leap into the end zone. And now 31-17, it's a closer game, but they didn't do anything after that offensively. And defense, it didn't help the Sun Devils either, as Ronald Jones just ran all over this ASU offense. That one was good for 64 yards, 216 rushing yards on the day, 341 total for that Trojan run game. And USC beats the Sun Devils at home 48-17. USC still sits at the top of the Pac12 South, the 5-1 conference record. And arguably the worst loss of Arizona State's seasons. That means we have a lot of questions to be answered, and good thing we have 2 of our best analysts to answer those questions. We have Josiah Desson and Julian Pottas. Guys, thanks for joining us, but a lot of questions, like I said. The ASU defense, they went from 100 to 0 pretty quickly. They beat number 5 Washington, and then they beat Utah pretty soundly. But they gave up 607 total yards to this Trojan offense. How did that happen when they were so good to so bad?
Troy, I like that you bring up the defenses, because that's really the issue. I mean, they gave up just a total of, 17 points against Washington and Utah. So, it's just the way that they played was giving up big plays. Right. And that's the problem. We've seen it. Rashad Penny. We've seen it with Bryce Love, and a really good running back in Phillip Lindsay's coming to town pretty soon. So it's the big plays. It's the problem, and it's almost like the linebackers are really the only consistent players on the team. If the defensive line can't hold the guys up front, then the secondary's got these big open tackles that are really hard to make.
Right.
And it's tough to just blame these guys. Like Kobe Williams missed a couple of tackles, but it's one-on-one in clear field. And big plays, it's tough to get those guys.
And some other reasons that contributed was Sam Darnold. They didn't put enough pressure on him early in the game.
That's a good point.
And because of it, he threw for 19 of 35, got 266 yards, threw for 3 touchdowns, and because of it, USC hit the ground running.
Yeah, I know. There were a couple of drives. Arizona State, I remember the first play of the game, they sacked Darnold, and it looked pretty good, and everybody was like, oh, here we go, this ASU defense, they're going to put it to this Trojan offense. And then it didn't happen, and I think a big reason why were the penalties. Very uncharacteristic-like game of Arizona State, because they had 10 penalties, and it cost them 99 yards. And coming into this game, only 22 penalties total on the season. What happened in that aspect?
Yeah, Troy, penalties will just absolutely destroy any momentum that you've built up.
Right.
It's like, taking a look at it, our good reporter Matthew Tonis did some research. It was the most penalties Todd Graham's given up just as a coach since 2010. So that's something. It could be a fluke. It's something that you're probably not going to see for the rest of the season, but it's definitely going to bring you back some yards, literally, and in the game it's going to take some points away. And, you know, you could blame it on the penalties, you could blame it on the offense, but really it's just like there were 5 penalties on the defense, there were 4 on the offense, and 2 on special teams. So it was really a team effort that screwed up. It wasn't really any one player.
And because of it, ASU gave up 99 yards that entire game, and that is crucial, especially in a game like this against USC. On top of that, they only rushed for a total of 79 yards, and for every carry, they only averaged about 2.6 yards per rush. It just looked like the offense didn't execute to the best of their ability.
Yeah, no, it was really interesting because normally Todd Graham emphasizes discipline so much, and he didn't have Kalen Ballage in the game to go with that 79 rushing yards. But offensively, let's get into that a little bit. It didn't look like they were really doing anything. A couple big plays here and there. Obviously, a last-second Hail Mary to end the first half. But other than that, they didn't look great.
No, Troy, this was the game where they were supposed to run the ball up their alley. I mean, just the week before, we were talking about on the show, USC had given up 377 rushing yards to Josh Adams and Notre Dame. I mean, not just Adams, but some ridiculous stuff there. ASU combining for just 79. I mean, what is that? Obviously, Demario Richard, he had a pretty good game, averaging almost 5 yards, and right behind him, Ballage wasn't able to be there. Add Ballage's 50, and that's just a lot there for the Sun Devils. So, I mean, bring Ballage back for Colorado, and that's going to add some. But, you know, it's really just a running game that was supposed to be effective against USC, who isn't great against the run, and it wasn't.
Absolutely. And going back to Ballage, he's been a huge factor for ASU's offense, not only this year, but in past years as well. A huge part of Todd Graham's offense. And the reason is Ballage is big. He's elusive. He's unpredictable.
That's good.
On the season, he's averaged about 4.1 yards per carry, which is okay. You know, it's not terrible, and he's been seen as a guy that can convert on those first downs. Looking at Demario Richards in that game, like you said, he averaged about 5 yards per carry, but it wasn't enough to execute a good, solid offense in that game. Altogether, the absence of Ballage really hurt ASU's chances of having a productive offense.
Yeah, I mean, you got to give credit to Eno Benjamin and Nick Ralston. You know, like, they did as much as they could, but they're no Kalen Ballage, not yet, in any aspect like that. But USC, probably one of the biggest challenges that Arizona State had to go up against this season. Now they got Colorado coming up. How do you guys see this game playing out?
I do think the Sun Devils will win this game. I think it was really an off week. Those 10 penalties is just uncharacteristic of the Sun Devils. Take back 99 yards, maybe take back one of those 60-plus runs from Ronald Jones. And I mean, ASU's right in that game.
Right.
Half of Sun Devil Stadium is still in the stadium and not on Mill, you know. So it's really just ASU's defense, show up, offense, run the ball against the Colorado team who actually doesn't play well against the run. And I mean, if with Kalen Ballage back, he's from Colorado, so I know he knows a lot of guys on that team he wants to go up against. And really, they need to run the ball effectively to win.
And Colorado wasn't the same team that they were last year.
It's true.
And I think one thing that I saw in that game was that Manny Wilkins really played well. He threw the ball well. He was trying to execute on offense when they could. And I think the defense is going to look a lot better. I think that loss against USC is going to be a wake-up. It's going to be a reminder as to what kind of defense and team that they can be.
Troy, Colorado's missing 8 players from last year's defense. Just think about it.
Yeah, well, Colorado, they were Pac12 South champions back in 2016. They're 5th in the Pac12 South right now. So it's a much different team. Arizona State has a better chance than they did against USC. But guys, thanks so much for joining us. We're going to have more about that Colorado game later on the show with our analyst Max Madden. But he's Josiah Desson. He's Julian Potas. Thanks so much for tuning in.
After Arizona State's loss to USC, our staff at House of Sparky compiled highlights, wrote the recap, and then told the public about the loss. In no way were we insinuating that the Sun Devils season is completely over with. There is still 4 weeks left of the regular season with 4 winnable matchups for the Sun Devils. Much of the reaction from Saturday night was disappointment and anger, but looking back, did anybody expect ASU to beat number 24 Oregon or number 5 Washington, who was coming fresh off a college football playoff bid? Also, quarterback Manny Wilkins has improved significantly from last year. 9 touchdowns with only 3 interceptions this season. That's pretty darn good. My message? Stop freaking out. It's okay. USC was a good team, and that kind of loss can only kindle a fire waiting to erupt for the Sun Devils.
Hey, welcome into houseofsparky.com. I'm Troy Lynch, and today in the players' spotlight is Arizona State defensive lineman Shannon Foreman. And Shannon, I know you've gotten some playing time throughout the season with New Mexico State, some in Oregon, some in Utah, but this past game against USC, you seem to get the most playing time out of all those games. What kind of propelled that?
Injuries, really. Trying to get healthy. George and Renell went down, and coach said next man up, so I went in and produced what I could do.
Yeah, and just being a freshman, is that kind of something like new? How were you intimidated? Were you nervous? What were your feelings?
No, I had no emotions going into it because I knew it was gonna happen sooner or later. And so I just went in and with no emotions and just played my game and my type of style.
Yeah, and for the entire schedule, obviously USC, probably one of the biggest games of the season. Was it difficult to kind of rise to that occasion, or is it just another day?
It was just another day. You know, really, practice helped out a little bit more, but the end result didn't come out like we wanted to. But practice helped out a lot for that game.
So obviously, probably going to get some more playing time with all these injuries. And what are you trying to do to make yourself get better?
Just going out there, practice, working, giving a good work ethic and everything, and just going in and producing what I could do.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it must be tough at the same time. I mean, just being thrown into it. I know Tayshawn Smallwood, he was like a starter his freshman year. Has he been kind of a mentor, giving you any advice?
Yeah. Me and Tayshawn have a good relationship on and off the field. He teaches me through text messages, in person, and everything. He just shows me the ropes about what it being a Sun Devil is.
Yeah. It must be nice to have a mentor like that, for sure. Yeah. Now, I know you're from Louisiana, Baton Rouge. How different is it coming to Arizona State? This weather, everything kind of around it.
Oh, it's way different.
Really?
Yeah, it's way different. You know, from the culture to the food you eat.
Right. I was about to ask about that because Louisiana's got some good food.
Yeah, and you come out here, you eat burritos and everything.
Right.
But it's really like I had to get adjusted to it, to the heat, to the lifestyle I was living, and the surroundings I was around. So
right.
It was a hard adjustment, really. You know, being on in the South, we have like a 2-hour delay.
Sure.
And you know, just being.
No, you're all good, Coach. Coach Todd Grip.
Yeah. You know, just being like 2 hours ahead, behind, it kind of helped me.
Right.
It was like I was waking up like 3 o'clock in the morning. It's like 5 o'clock my time in Louisiana.
Sure.
And so I'm like, wow, I'm energized, but now everybody sleeps. So
you should be asleep. Yeah.
So it's really been it's been a good adjustment coming in.
Yeah.
And it's been a lot going on.
Yeah.
So,
it's getting a little cooler now, though.
It looks beautiful, just like my official visit.
Right. Yeah. But I mean, these 7:45 game times, they go pretty late. Does that kind of affect how you guys play it?
Nah, not at all. It's just you gotta go out there and play. You gotta bow your neck up and ball.
Yeah. So this upcoming schedule, very important. You got Colorado coming up this weekend. What do you guys know about them? Because they're coming off a very impressive win, and it seems like everybody's on their team's playing well now.
Yeah, we know that they're going to come out with a fight. They just came up with a big win, so we just have to go be the hammer and let them be the nails. So,
right.
You know, just go out there and play, and show no mercy.
Absolutely.
At all.
And these uniforms that you guys are wearing this week, I'm a senior right now, and out of all the uniforms, I think these are the coolest. What do you think?
Oh, yeah, they are, but still, you got to go out there and play.
Yeah, sure. I'm talking like fashion-wise, I guess, you know.
Yeah, but I mean, they're nice. They're nice. They're going to be.
Hey, Coach.
They're going to be
one of his favorites.
Yeah. It's going to be, you know, fashion-wise, a good game.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's going to be a good game. And we're ready to play Colorado.
Awesome, Shannon. Well, thank you so much for joining me today. We really hope you get some more playing time. I hope you see you kill it out there against Colorado. Yeah. That's coming up this Saturday, 6 o'clock game time, Arizona State versus Colorado. Thanks for tuning in. And now for one of our favorite parts of the show. It's pros and cons. And basically, Blaine and I discuss the ups and downs of Sun Devil football. And this week, I'm Negative Nancy, and he's Positive Paulie. So let's get right back into it. My first con of this show is going to be Arizona State coming off one of their worst losses of the season, 48-17 against USC at home, mind you. This was just bad all around. Their discipline was not what it was used to be. It was 10 penalties and they gave up 99 yards because of it. Coming into this game, they only had 22 penalties and they only had 1 against Washington and then 2 against Utah. Very uncharacteristic-like of them, and I think that really just affected the outcome of the game.
Well, the numbers don't lie, and you're right. That is very uncharacteristic of the Sun Devils to have 10 penalties, and they've always had low numbers on this season, but now they have the loss. That's out of the way. Forget about it, folks. They have a fire right now. They have a fire under their bellies, and they're going to go up against this Colorado team who hasn't had the best season and really put it to them, I think. And I think with those types of losses, when you get defeated that badly, you have something to prove.
Sure.
And when they were in practice and talking with them, they have that confidence, and they're ready to prove it.
Yeah, 2 weeks ago. Let's date back to 2 weeks ago.
Sure.
Colorado lost to Washington State 28-0. They go up against Cal last week and they beat them 44-28. Talk about a fire. Those guys were angry. And Steven Montez, he led the charge. He's the quarterback for the Buffaloes, and he threw for almost 350 yards and 3 touchdowns. Philip Lindsay, he's their workhorse in the backfield. He had carried the ball for 33 times, and he had 161 yards on the ground. And then you also have Shea Fields. He had 4 receptions, 104 yards, and a touchdown. So everybody was really in sync for this Colorado offense. And if the Sun Devil defense plays like they did last week, that could spell some trouble.
And the Colorado team that we see this season is so much different from last season. You mentioned a few of their games. You mentioned that Washington State one when they were shut out 28-0. Let's take a look at some of the other games that they were affected by. Washington, they lost 37-10 to them. Arizona State beat them when they were ranked number 5. UCLA, they beat Colorado as well, 27-23. Then Washington State, you mentioned it already, 28-0. So there's a lot of losses for this Buffs team. I'm sure they're going to come with a fire to Tempe because the Sun Devils may not be in the same situation that they were a couple weeks ago, that same momentum. But the Sun Devils want to get right back on that train.
I'm sure.
And this game against the Buffs is the one that they're going to have to get back on it.
Yeah, and the first thing I think you have to do is stop Philip Lindsay, because that's the main guy coming out of the backfield. Like I already said, 161 yards against Cal last week. And for Arizona State, when they had to go up against Ronald Jones in this USC offense, they gave up 341 yards on the ground. 216 of those came from Jones, and they gave up 607 total yards to Sam Darnold and this USC offense. Unacceptable. If you're Todd Graham and Phil Bennett, you just never want to see that. That's a game like they had against Stanford, and Philip Lindsay, number 3 in the nation when it comes to rushing yards. So you got to stop him, and it doesn't look like the Sun Devil defense can do that right now.
Well, USC had someone that Colorado does not. His name's Sam Darnold. Maybe you've heard of him. He's a good quarterback, probably going to go in the first round of the NFL draft if he chooses to go that route. But on the other hand, Colorado, they're a pretty balanced offense all around. They go like pretty much half to Lindsay at the running back position and then half to the air. But the defense of the Arizona State is spotty when it comes to the run defense, but their pass defense has been good. Look at the cornerbacks that they have. Chase Lucas, then you got Kobe Williams, hashtag SWAT City, folks.
You said that last week.
It's still got to go. It's going to be trending soon, Troy. I promise you that.
I'm sure.
And their quarterback, you mentioned Montez. He's a young guy, still a sophomore at the University of Colorado. They got to jump on him early if they want to disrupt anything with this Buffs offense. Plus, Colorado's defense gives up an average of 25 points a game, and then the offense of the Sun Devils averages 27 points per game as well. So with the numbers, they're looking pretty much in favor of the Sun Devils. We'll see what happens this weekend. But let's send it over to Julian Paras to give us a recap of what happened around the Pac-12. Julian?
Thanks, guys. And this week we're going to do what we do best and talk football with Around the Pac-12. On Saturday, the Arizona Wildcats extended their win streak to 4 games as they took down number 15 ranked Washington State. Up to this point in the season, quarterback Khalil Tate may be one of the most exciting players in college football as he showed off his pass and run game by throwing for 275 yards, rushing for 146, and being responsible for 3 total touchdowns. The Wildcats got the W with a final score of 58-37. Moving on, the Oregon Ducks snapped a 3-game losing streak as they took down the Utah Utes. Defense was the name of the game as the Ducks shut down Utah QB Tyler Huntley and the rest of the Utah offense. Members of the defensive line like Jalen Jelks, Joran Scott, and Henry Mondu eliminated any opportunity for the Utah Utes to gain yardage and first downs. Oregon running backs Royce Freeman and Tony Brooks James combined for 244 yards with a rushing touchdown from James in the 41-20 victory in Eugene. And in a thrilling game, Keller Christ led the number 20 Stanford Cardinal in the win over the Oregon State Beavers. Christ passed for 141 yards, including the go-ahead touchdown to give Stanford the lead with 20 seconds left in the fourth quarter. However, the Beavers were ferocious on defense. Statistically, they beat Stanford in total yards with 264 and time of possession, controlling the ball for 32 minutes. But it wasn't enough to get the win at home. The final score was 15-14. As a result, Stanford is currently sitting at the top of the Pac-12 North. Thanks for tuning in to this week's segment of Around the Pac-12, and we'll see you next week. Now we'll send it over to Troy with a deeper look into the Pac-12 South.
Hey, thanks so much, Julian. But now Arizona State, they're in the Pac12 South. So we're going to take a look at the other games that could affect them in the future. The biggest game in the Pac12 South this week is USC going up against Arizona. It's a top 25 matchup. USC at 17, the Wildcats at 22nd in the nation. Whoever wins this game will be at the top of the Pac12 South. Arizona QB Khalil Tate is the most dominant player in the conference right now because he's won the Pac12 Offensive Player of the Week honors for the 4th week in a row. Nobody has ever done that in the conference history, and U of A, they've won 4 in a row. They're red hot. However, USC, they're undefeated at home, but Arizona, undefeated on the road. So that's going to be a must-watch this weekend. And the Bruins, they'll be in Salt Lake City, and they're in a solid position because the Utes are on a 4-game losing streak. Although UCLA quarterback Josh Rosen did injure his finger against the Washington Huskies last week, so Utah has a chance to win at home, trying to dig its way out of last in the Pac-12 South. All right, let's detox. We've been a little too uptight as of late, but let's have some fun. It's time for Pick Your Poster. Basically, all we really did was we were at the USC ASU game. We saw some of our favorite posters in the stands, decided to take a picture of it, and we're putting them up here. You guys voted which one was your favorite, and it's time to show you. So, Blaine, let's get into this first one.
Okay.
You know Halloween was this past Tuesday.
Sure.
A lot of costumes, a lot of costume ideas. This one, good couples costume idea. USC and trash. You get it?
I got it.
If you're an Arizona State fan, you think USC is trash. However, they didn't play like it because they smoked the Sun Devils.
Exactly. I'm just trying to figure out how exactly you dress up as a trash can. Like, that's got to take a lot of tin foil or anything.
No, you just put a trash bag over it.
I
not
guess
that I've done it.
Yeah, not that I've done it.
Not that I've done it.
But that's a good poster. I'll show you one. Did you see this little exchange on Twitter between Juju Smith-Schuster and like the community of Pittsburgh?
About his bike?
It was about his bike.
His bike.
So,
yeah.
Anyways, background for this story: Juju Smith-Schuster. He's an alumni of USC.
Yeah.
USC was playing the Sun Devils at Sun Devil Stadium. This fan decided to make a joke about it.
That's good.
He is the culprit. We took Juju's bike. He's admitting guilt by this. Clearly, he did. I mean, he had to have traveled to Pittsburgh to take this thing, right?
Yeah. How does he get there to take a bike? Did he fly? That just seems like an unreasonable theft.
It does, and I mean that doesn't seem logical because Pittsburgh is on the other side of the country from Arizona State.
I've driven there from California. It's a pretty long ways away.
And you don't want to drive it on a bike, right?
No, that just does not seem worth it.
But I mean, Juju, he was calling for his bike. He was like, "Find my bike, please." And he finally got it. The bike is safe. Everybody's cool.
Cool.
It's all good. So he's got the bike, and he has the Pick Your Poster favorited tweet of this week. So you're the lucky winner. You might have stolen the bike, but you've stolen our attention with this Pick Your Poster.
Yeah, good job. For a second time this season, a former Arizona State football player has been signed to the Arizona Cardinals practice squad due to injuries to star players. When Cardinals running back David Johnson hurt his wrist, the organization signed former Patriots running back DJ Foster. After quarterback Carson Palmer suffered a season-ending injury, they snagged Chargers practice squad quarterback Mike Bercovici. Bercovici was an undrafted free agent for the Chargers and spent the 2016 preseason with them until he was waived right before the season started. He stayed on a training program for the next year and would text Chargers starting QB Phillip Rivers to keep his NFL dreams alive. He was given a a rare opportunity, and the Chargers re-signed him for the 2017 season, but now is back in Arizona. Right now, there are 2 quarterbacks on the 53-man active roster, 8-year veteran backup Drew Stanton and former 49er Blaine Gabbert. But that doesn't take away the excitement and determination from the Southern California native. I had a brief conversation with Mike on the sidelines of the USC ASU game and asked him what it was like being back in Arizona playing football again. He said, "It feels amazing." And that's why Mike Bercovici is our feel-good story of the week.
Well, thanks so much, Troy, for that feel-good story of the week. It's nice to see the alumni get some jobs out of their college football career, but we want to break down this game that's happening this Saturday against the Colorado Buffaloes. That's why we bring in Max Madden to break down all of the film. So in this case, it seems as though they're lining up in a traditional shotgun formation, but they do have a secret weapon in Phillip Lindsay. What do you see from him, and what qualities make him stand out in a crowd?
Well, Phillip Lindsay is definitely an all-around amazing running back. He's very elusive, he's very quick in the open field, and also very powerful. He demonstrates all 3 of those on this play. Let's take a look. So on this play, the Buffaloes are just going to run a pretty simple halfback sweep to the left side, but Phillip Lindsay is going to run up against 3 different defensive backs. That's not a problem. He's going to run over there. He's going to make 3 different tacklers miss, excel into the open field. There goes that speed. And one more thing, Blaine. Here comes a stiff arm, a super strong play there from Phillip Lindsay, demonstrating how versatile he is on the offensive attack.
So that was Phillip Lindsay, a definite weapon for the Buffs. Now we're going to move on to another one that they have in their arsenal. It's their quarterback. Max, who is it?
Well, it's Steven Montez, and the Buffs actually have 3 different wide receivers with over 400 yards, the quickest of which is Shea Fields. Let's take a look at his dynamic speed on this play. So Fields is lined up all the way on the far right side of your screen, and he's going to be in press coverage, and that is a mistake. He's just going to run a go route. He's got that 4.36 speed. Montez sees it immediately, and look at the separation he's created. He is gone from the 20, and he is into the end zone. So the Buffalo's really dynamic on all sides of the offense with Lindsay and 3 different solid receivers. They're very dangerous.
Well, this Buffaloes team definitely has a lot of weapons with them. What do you think the ending result is going to be when they come to Tempe?
Well, if ASU can't run the ball and the Buffaloes can, I think that's going to be the difference. And Phillip Lindsay absolutely can run the ball. So I think Colorado barely edges out the Sun Devils in this one by a score of 33-30, picking the upset.
Dang, a bold prediction by Max Madden. You heard it here first, folks. But now we're going to take a look at the games ahead. We just talked about the Sun Devils taking on Colorado. Then they go on the road to face UCLA in the Rose Bowl and Oregon State in Corvallis, which they lost to 2 years ago. Finishing up as tradition is the Territorial Cup, where they'll take on a red-hot Arizona team here in the Valley of the Sun. Now let's move on to our Pac12 Top Plays of the Week. Washington State, Arizona, as Tyler Helinski hurls this thing, but it's intercepted by Colin Schooler, who takes it down the field 55 yards for the pick 6. You saw him on our show last week. Now you see him again, making a good amount of screen time as he gets hugged by all of his teammates. Take another look at this in slow motion just for fun. Intercepting that ball, caressing it like a baby, and taking it down the field. Arizona wins it 58-37.
Great hair and a great play. Utah versus Oregon. Tyler Huntley dropping back, deflected. Oh, and that's caught by a big guy, an offensive lineman touchdown. We don't see a lot of those on the show. Deflected, and that's Darren Paulo hanging on for his first career touchdown. He's 6'6", 312 pounds, and that's our number 2 play of the week.
We showed you it earlier in the show. Let's just take another look at it for fun. Manny Wilkins hurling this thing down the field. Coming down with it, Kyle Williams going for a prayer, and his prayers are answered. Thank you, Father, for you have a touchdown. USC says no, 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 but the referees said yes, as he was in bounds for the touchdown, and USC goes on to win this game over the Sun Devils 48-17, and grabbing our Pac-12 Top Play of the Week. Well, those were our Pac-12 Top Plays of the Week, and we saw a lot of different stuff in those highlights as well. A pick 6, and then a touchdown that was a Hail Mary, then a big guy getting a touchdown.
I was so excited when I saw that for the first time. I love seeing offensive linemen getting credit that they deserve, scoring a touchdown. Oh, man, it was great. We hope you had a good time watching this show. He's Blaine McCormick. I'm Troy Lynch. Thanks again for tuning in to HouseofSparky.com. Arizona State, Colorado. That's happening later today. Watch that game and watch our show next Saturday, and we'll see you then.